So it's time for some guests, and it is Cask Ale Week, an annual celebration and awareness event all about Cask Ale. And last year we had beer sommelier and head trainer at Cask Marque, Annabel Smith, on to tell us all about Cask Ale Week. And we ran it across the radio. We did various features. It was on the podcast and everything. And I thought, yeah, we need to sort of touch base on all this again and talk a bit more about it, and obviously what's going to be going off this year. So as well as Annabel Smith, who's going to be joining us again, head trainer at Cask Marque and also beer sommelier. And then we've also got another beer sommelier, also working with Cask Marque. It's John Porter. How are you both doing?
How's it going, you right?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Great to see you both. Annabel, it's nice to see you again. We obviously chatted last year, and that was brilliant. So connect over that. So I think the best thing to do is just to remind everybody, you know, maybe we've obviously got a lot of new listeners over the past year as well. What is Cask Ale Week and where did it all come from, Annabel?
Okay, so Cask Ale Week has been going more than a decade now, and it was originally set up to celebrate our national drink, get pubs throughout the UK involved, to attract more people to Cask Ale through events, sampling, and just basically get people to understand that Cask Ale is very unique to the British pub and an opportunity to try it.
It is, and I remember speaking last year, and obviously the thing about Cask Ale is how much it takes to make that a truly, really amazing beer, because there's a lot that it's not just obviously as it's at the brewery and it's made at the brewery, but after it's left the brewery and how it's stored and how it's kept by the pubs. And obviously, as head trainer of Cask Marque, that's something that you help to train people on, isn't it?
Totally. There's a lot of skill involved in looking after Cask Ale and getting the quality of it absolutely right. It's an unfinished product when it leaves the brewery, so it needs to go through a few stages before it's ready to drink. And I believe that when you get it right, it's one of the best drinks in the world.
It is, and it is a very sort of British thing as well, isn't it? Or we kind of sort of embraced it, didn't we? A lot more than probably other countries did back in the day, and we kind of made it a sort of British thing, really, didn't we?
Yeah, although it's really interesting how other countries really envy this product that we've got, and a lot of overseas visitors, when they come across to the UK, it's one of the first things they want to try, this quirky British drink that they can't get in their own country.
Yeah, there's a lot of surveys that show that kind of the people who arrive in this country, they want to find, you know, a traditional English pub like they've seen in the films with an open fire and wooden beams. They want to have fish and chips, and they want to drink a pint of Cask Ale. It's very, very high on the list. So it is a big driver of tourism and revenue for pubs as well. And
of course, there's a lot going on about protecting it and protecting its status too, isn't there? We've seen that over the last year. I don't know if you want to tell us a bit more about that, John, and sort of what you've seen of that.
Yeah, well, there's a petition. A young man called Johnny Garrett, who is behind that. He's launched a petition which is aiming to get, and I will try and get this right, UNESCO World Heritage status.
That's right. He was on the show with his probably about 6 months ago or so. But yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, and achieving that would be great, because I mean, and as far as I know, the only other beer style that has got that status is the Belgian beer culture. So it's an attempt to say that British beer culture is certainly on a par with Belgium, and that Cask Ale is right up there. And the interesting thing is that if that status was granted, then that means that the government has a responsibility to protect it, and that I think would be very welcome in the current environment to pubs and brewers if there was a requirement on the powers that be to sort of recognise the very special status of Cask Ale. So anyone who can go online and find that petition and sign it, I think it would be great to get that up to the level where Parliament had to debate it.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant, and I think it's a really good time to bring in an article and some sort of news that was doing the rounds, over the past couple of weeks, and about how the younger generation, I don't know if they're calling them Gen Z or whatever it is these days. I'm not sure where we're up to with all that, but I know that Yeah,
if you read our press release, we called them Gen Z. But basically, this came out when we were looking at different angles to try and get some national media coverage this year for Cask Ale Week, because it's very easy to get the trade press to write about beer. But what we want is to have the national media, the broadcasters, talking about beer in a good way, because pubs and beer tend to get a little bit of negative press, and sometimes it becomes self-fulfilling when you're talking about regular pub closures, that it feels like a story of woe. But there are some good stories out there. And the Society of Independent Brewers and Associates did some research earlier in the year, which found that up from about 16% of younger beer drinkers last year to 25% this year, which is quite a leap. In terms of sheer numbers, it's more than 50% of those younger beer drinkers, 20 to 25. If they drink beer, they're choosing to drink cask beer quite often. Now, there are probably a number of reasons for that. One of that is that it's a generation that perhaps hasn't got a lot of money in their pockets, and cask beer is often, sadly, one of the cheapest options on the bar. But that's great. They're embracing it. They're enjoying it. And having followed that up, anecdotally, I was speaking to a lot of different brewers, people like I was up in Manchester with J.W. Lees, who are rebrewing Boddingtons last week, and they were saying exactly the same thing, that actually over the counter they're seeing this, that young people are embracing cask ale. Sometimes it's a nostalgia thing, sometimes it's just looking for something different. Perhaps there's a bit of fatigue around the craft beer movement, and they're looking for something a bit more traditional and with that range of flavors that cask ale offers. So it does seem to be a story of success, that there's still a lot of work to do, and we need to get more people drinking cask ale again. It's still in decline, but the fact is that there do seem to be sort of some green shoots there.
I wonder myself as well, just as my own sort of thoughts, whether it might be a little bit of a follow-on from the sort of, crazy Guinness trend that we saw over the past year with younger people in particular as well, and whether, it's a completely different drink, but it's the sort of, it's the less carbonated, the sort of softer, more traditional sort of thing. I wonder if some of that is maybe followed on from that as well. People going, you know what, I've had that now. I'm going to try some of the other more, traditional sort of stuff that they would see as cask beer.
I think definitely, and certainly Michael Lees-Jones, who's the head brewer at JW Lees, was saying exactly that a lot of the northern style ales and bitters in particular do have that same creamy mouthfeel that Guinness has, and they are definitely seeing that those younger drinkers who have come back into traditional styles through Guinness are quite happy to drink a pint of a creamy northern bitter, like a Boddington's or JW Lees' own beers. So yeah, I think that's definitely part of the trend.
And that's it. And we talk about, them being traditional, and we had Abbeydale Brewery on last week, and I sort of was talking to them about how they've, they were a traditional brewery, or what we sort of say, as a traditional brewery, and they've sort of like modernized, kind of still embracing the cask, but also bringing in the craft and, the craft beer stuff as well. But they sort of made a point that actually, well, when they started in 96, cask beer was the trend. It was the modern thing, wasn't it? Back in the 90s. So it's almost like we're seeing that come back round in a similar way that like fashions and things from the 90s and television and bands even like Oasis and all the sort of Britpop revival, it seems like it could be almost joined together a little bit, doesn't it?
I'd say so, definitely. Yeah, I don't know what Annabel thinks, but yeah, definitely. I think the same kids who are now sort of digging out their parents' Oasis CDs are going into the pub and ordering a pint of cask ale, which is great.
It's brilliant.
To that as well, that I think it's seen as kind of a grown-up drink, and it's a bit of a thoughtful drink as well, rather than just going for something yellow, cold and fizzy from a big multinational. There's some thought put behind it into the choices that younger people are making in what they're consuming, both in food and drink.
Brilliant. Now, I think what we want to move on to talk about is obviously the events that are planned for this year, because each year you try sort of do different things, don't you? For Cask Ale Week, and have different sort of events running. I know I'm involved in one at the commercial pub round the corner from me, my favourite pub that I always sing and shout about. But I'm going to be hosting the Cask Ale quiz, which is something that you do on an annual basis as well. But what other sort of things do we have planned?
Well, yeah, I mean, alongside the pubs that run the pub quiz, and we think hundreds of pubs have asked for the quiz. We hope all of them will be running it. There's all sorts of things going on. I mean, on a national basis. Sorry, I'll make sure I'm read my notes to make sure I get this right. But you can follow the Cask Finder Ale Trail on the Cask Finder app, and if you check into 12 new pubs that you haven't been to before, and obviously we're encouraging moderate drinking, so you only need to have a half at each one. But if you do that across the 10 days of Cask Ale Week, then and check in 12 pubs, and you can claim a Cask Ale T-shirt, which is an exclusive Cask Ale Week T-shirt. We've got the pub quizzes. We did we got some publicity around the tasters. We reckon that if 10,000 pubs are running Cask Ale Week events, and each of them were to offer 100 customers, a free taster, then that's 1 million free tasters of Cask Ale that are out there over the course of Cask Ale Week. So we hope that we take that up and we can reach that. And then you've got things like various pubs running promotions. A lot of pubs will be running their own beer festivals. I can tell you a little bit about what some individual pub groups are doing, if that's any good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Fuller's pubs around London, the southeast mostly, anyone who's already registered on their database who brings in a friend can claim a free pint of Cask Ale, which is great because that hopefully brings in more people into the Cask Ale world. Ember Inns, which is a national chain, their Cask Ale Club, which you can go in and join on the day, offers discounted pints of Cask Ale, £3.50 every Monday and Thursday. Craft Union pubs, customers who buy 5 pints during the week can claim a 6th free. Nicholson's, national chain, they've got 80 pubs nationally. They run a Cask card loyalty scheme, which is again buy 4 pints and get your 5th free. And then Arkle's Brewery are doing a daytime promotion. So if you happen to be able to get out and have a pint during the day, Monday to Friday, they've got a discount. It's I think it's £3 for a pint of cask during the week. Then Palmer's Brewery are running their beer festival down in Dorset. Hook Norton Brewery in Oxfordshire have got their own ale trail linked to the Cask Finder app, so you can go around their pubs and claim up. We've got the Forth Valley Ale Trail by train, which is great. Borderlands Beer Festival and Tempest Brewery up in Galashiels in Scotland. The York Beer Festival is taking place around this time in the city. So there's lots going on, very much so.
It does. It sounds amazing that there is so much for people to get involved in there, and to, even for the first time, or if you're a cask beer lover already, to sort of celebrate it. I mean, some of that you mentioned, we can put that in our Martin Brewis section, which is our discounts and offers section of the radio and the podcast. So we'll put that in there because people can save some money, can't they, as well?
Indeed, absolutely. There's a lot of people offering discounts, and not only just pub groups, but individual pubs will offer. They will have a guest beer or a special beer for Cask Ale Week, and they're doing it at a discount. Yeah, and as you say, anything that gets more people coming in and trying cask beer, and hopefully some of them staying with it and drinking it beyond Cask Ale Week would be great.
And I know there's also
to add one thing to John. You mentioned the quiz at the start of this. You don't need to be a beer geek to take that quiz. So it's 50 questions, 5 rounds of 10 questions. But it's designed to appeal to the people who know nothing about beer, to those people who proclaim to be experts about it. Everyone loves a good pub quiz.
Absolutely. I was at the Barley Mow in Epsom last night doing the pub quiz there. Sadly, we came fourth, so we weren't in the cash prizes, but it was good, yeah.
And as a quiz master at this as well, because I'll be doing it at the commercial, I'm going to get the answers, aren't I?
Oh yes.
You'll have your answer sheet, which guard it carefully. Because
I will. Yeah, looking forward to hosting that. That'd be brilliant. And of course, it's not just about the sort of these kind of events that we're running that are more in-person things, but you kind of do a lot on through your socials as well, don't you, in terms of promoting Cask Ale Week? And I know that you'll have people sort of picking out their favourite cask ales and stuff like that as well. Is that something that's going to be going off this year as well?
Definitely, yeah. There's both right throughout Cask Ale Week, which is slightly misnomer because it runs 10 days. Obviously, it's from the 18th to the 28th. Mm-hmm. But each day on the Cask Ale Week website, as well as through the social media, there'll be a beer of the day selected by various people, and a brewery of the day selected, which has been selected. So that there'll be opportunities to talk about some of the interesting beers that are out there, as well as what some brewers are doing. So yeah, there's very much a big social media push on it.
Brilliant. I think that brings me on nicely, actually, to ask about your own favourites. Because before we chatted, I know we spoke to Annabel last year, so I think I can remember Annabel's answer from last year. But what would be great to get from both of you is maybe your favourite cask beer of all time, if you can think of that or think of one, which must be tough. And also maybe one that you've discovered more recently. that'd be good to get to. So, Annabel, do you want to start us off?
I bet I'll say something completely different from last year. But Desert Island beer, my favourite cask ale of all time is Timothy Taylor's Landlord. In terms of a newer beer, I love Aussie White Rat.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's amazing and really drinkable. It's like, it's just perfect. And then an even newer beer, which is great for this time of year where we're kind of becoming a little bit autumnal, is 5 Points Brewery. And they brew a cask ale called Railway Porter. And it's the perfect beer to sit by the fireside with.
Oh, amazing. And yourself, John?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think in many years ago when I first started drinking cask ale, there were national brands. I mean, one of my favourites back in the day was Courage Best, which you don't see as much of. It's still out there, but that was a lovely classic sort of bitter style, and you still see those kind of bitter styles out there. And it's nice that some of the more modern craft brewers are now trying to brew those traditional bitters at around the 3.5, 3.8 ABV mark, and some of those are very good. These days, I tend to go. I mean, there's some really great cask IPAs out there now, which is kind of a style that has gone all the way over to the States and come back, and now you've got some really good sort of UK brewers sort of trying to emulate some of the flavors you get in those American style sort of IPAs, but doing it on cask. So at the weekend, I had Duration Brewery's Norfolk Brewer Rubber Ducky IPA, which was absolutely fantastic, really nice on cask, fresh and hoppy and piney, really lovely beer. And I'm certainly and I love Elusive Brewery's Oregon Trail, which was shortlisted for Champion Beer of Britain this year, and that's again a fantastic version of the Americans copied British IPAs. The British brewers have now taken back what the Americans did with it and are doing their own thing with it. And there's some great examples out there, really great, refreshing hoppy beers.
Amazing, brilliant. I mean, I'll throw mine in there as well if anyone can remember mine from last year. I'll always throw in Bradfield Farmer's Blonde. That's kind of my go-to when it comes to Sheffielder. I'm going to stick with some of the Sheffield ones here. Farmer's Blonde. We had Abbeydale on the show last week. Abbeydale Brewery. Moonshine is just celebrated its 29th birthday. It'll be 30 next year. Moonshine. That's a brilliant beer. But I tend to, in my pub, if I see Moonshine and Deception, I tend to go for Deception over the Moonshine. I really like that beer. And then a bit further afield, if I step out of Sheffield and stop being biased towards Sheffield, this year I was fortunate to finally be able to go and actually have a cask Sonoma from Track Brewery in Manchester at the actual brewery. And that is a really good, sort of more modern one in a sense as well. Really nice. And then another one that I discovered, I think it may have been this time last year, and unfortunately can't remember the name of it. I think it might have been maybe Divine something, but it was Shiny Brewery in Derbyshire. And they'd done a beautiful cask beer, nice and thick as well. And it went down really, really well. So I'll give a shout out to them. But there we go. But it'd be a nice point in, while we're talking, to invite anybody who's listening, whether you be listening to this as it plays out live or on the Instagram comments or whatever, just use the comments wherever you are to maybe drop your own in. It'd be good to see, and we can share them on our socials as well. And obviously we'll tag, Cask Beer Week into it as well, Cask Ale Week into it. So that'd be great.
It would be great to get a listener's top 10 cask beers currently, because the market changes so quickly, and there's so many brewers doing interesting beers for Cask Ale Week. It would be great to find out which ones people are actually enjoying.
It does, and it won't be long before we're seeing those fancy pump clips appearing with flashing lights on them again. Obviously, we're getting close to Halloween and Christmas and all that, so we'll see all that soon, which is always something to look forward to as well. Absolutely brilliant. It's been really nice chatting with you both. So going forward for Cask Ale Week, what are you hoping that it's going to achieve this time round? What how you hope it's going to go?
I think from the aim is to get more people drinking cask ale. I mean, as you say, 20 years ago in the 90s, it was a huge part of the beer market. But really, and particularly post sort of COVID and lockdown, a lot of people haven't got back into the pub habit, and because you can only drink cask ale in pubs, then you've seen that concurrent sort of decline. So it would be great to see more people going in to use their local and having a pint of cask ale.
Excellent. And Annabel, just to finish with as well, obviously his head trainer, I know we spoke to you about it last year, but has it been a busy year for yourself since we last spoke? Have you been going to new pubs, new places? Because obviously the pub industry has been obviously struggling quite a lot, but have you seen on the other side of things more pubs maybe, getting you in and all them kind of things?
Yeah, what I've tended to see is the pubs that look after their beer properly, those pubs are doing really, really well, especially on cask. And I think what we've got to remember that if you've got a great range of cask ale, and by range, I don't mean having 6 or 8, even if you've just got 2 brilliantly kept cask ales on the bar, the cask ale drinkers will come in, they will bring other drinkers with them, and it attracts more people into that pub. And they might not drink cask ale, but those other customers will always have a drink in there. So it just increases the pub's overall popularity and profitability. And more people are wanting training on this art of looking after cask ale.
Brilliant. I mean, let's all raise a glass then and celebrate Cask Ale Week. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, John. Cheers, Annabel.
I'm saying my coffee's up, but cheers.